Our next speaker is James Spake. James is a certified hypnotherapist, a LMT for 29 years, now retired, a third-degree practitioner in the Usui system? Usui system, a third-degree practitioner of Reiki Alliance, and a third-degree practitioner of the Wiccan Gardnerian system, as well as an ordained priest of the Gaian Life Church. You're clearly at the right place. He holds an MA in teaching and a BA in English. Please welcome James Spake.
Hello, Psychedelic Portland. Okay, in honor of the heat and the dust and the sweat, I'd like everyone to stand up and wave their arms and wiggle and jump up and, move up and down in place just a little bit, just to kind of get the cheesy. Okay, now, while you're up, I'm going to do a little survey question, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want your noisy and vivid physical response. How many of you here are psychedelic consciousness positive? Yay! Okay. 2, how many of you consider yourself to be sex positive? Yay! Okay. How many of you have used psychedelics while engaged in sexual activities? Yay! How many of you have used psychedelics in conjunction with spiritually oriented activities? Yay! How many of you have used sexual activities as a spiritual exercise? Yay! How many of you have used psychedelics and sexual activities in a spiritual enterprise? Still some, not so many. So that's kind of what I'm going to be here to talk about. Okay, next question, last one. How many of you have frolicked with the Salvia-clowns? Several. You know what? If you have, you know what I mean, and if you haven't, that's something to explore. All right. Resume your seats, as you were. Too warm for much of that. Yeah, my clown name is Dusty Rhodes, not Sweaty Torso. Okay, I'm going to be playing with that. I may just take it off here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see, that's most of the survey questions for right now. Are we here? Okay. Salvia Divinorum. A couple more survey questions before we get into explanation. Who all has had, and you don't have to be noisy, just raise your hands, who has had experience with salvia of one kind or another? Okay, most. How many of you have only worked with smoking extract? Oh, wow, that surprises me. That's cool. How many of you have whole leaf experience? Smoking whole leaf. How about chewing a quid of whole leaf? Okay, we've got some variation there, and we'll get back to all that, the different formats and dosages and erotic encounters here shortly. Much of the information that I have, I got from books, and I'm going to share some of those with you, but the balance of it comes from 20 years of practice and exploration. The Entheogen Review, the collection of materials from the early 90s, excellent. The Entheogen Review, you can look that up. Anything by Stephen Herod Buhner, Plant Intelligence in the Imaginal Realm, opening the doors of beyond the doors of perception. Excellent. If you get a chance to read anything by Buhner, I would highly recommend that. If you want to get wacky, get into Ross Heaven, Shamanic Quest for the Spirit of Salvia. He, unlike me, works with high levels of concentrate along with other substances at the same time, and I'm not sure how groovy that is. For me, not for me anyway. And then the 3 books by Dale Pendell, Pharmacopoeia, Pharmacodynamis, and Pharmacognosis. I think they're out of print, but if you get your hands on them, they are amazing books about the poison path, ethnobotany, and poetry and stuff. In fact, Ross Heaven quotes him a lot. Okay, where are we here? Okay. Much of what I'm going to tell you is from my 20 years of experience, so it's subjective, it's anecdotal. It may or may not apply to you, so just be aware of that. It all began at Brighton Bush Hot Springs, the first Salvia conference, International Salvia Conference, Maria Pastora, the leaves of the shepherdess. Everybody who was anybody in the Salvia field was there at that time. And at that adventure, we just smoked whole leaf. And my first experience was fairly typical. I'll just list some of the things that happened. Okay. No, that's fine. Just take it up.
Sorry, everybody. That's probably bothering me as much as it's bothering me.
Two things that'll fix almost anything. If it's not supposed to move and it moves, duct tape. If it doesn't move and it's supposed to, WD-40.
Yeah. Or if you can't duck it, fuck it.
And if you're military, you paint it. Smoking whole leaf. 2 inhalations. Hold it, let it go. The second one, I don't have to breathe. I'm falling backwards onto the bunk. I'm laughing uncontrollably. And then one which will lead on to the rest of this, I'm being straddled in a tantric position by this feminine energy power of Salvia Divinorum. Does that ring any other bells with anybody? All right. Okay, the names of Salvia have resonance whether we know them consciously or not. This is very awkward, but that would have been worse. Okay. Salvia Diviners, Sage, Maria Pastora, Mary the Shepherdess. Salvia is called Sally sometimes, which relates to Sarah and Salome, both of which mean princess, peace, shalom, salam, right? Joined together. Also Temptress, Salvia again. And Salome was a myrrh bearer, referencing the bitterness. Mary, Maria, Miriam also means bitter, also beloved, also rebellious. So now we're getting into attributes that resonate with the spirit of Salvia. Some people have called her Lady Mondo Green, Lady of her own green world. Dale Pandell called it Viridissima Virga, greenest supple branch. Many people see the spirit of Salvia or perceive the spirit of Salvia as feminine, female. That's true for me, and generally in aspect, she appears tall, austere, cloaked in white, obscured, stern, aloof, mistress, sometimes in a tantric embrace, but not under the influence of the plant on a shamanic journey to have a conversation with the spirit of plant. She appeared to me short, female, naked, wearing pearls, and it was Donna Reed, for those of you that are old enough to know who that is. And if you know anything about dreams and visions and how often puns come through there, Donna Reed, lady, the hollow-stemmed plant. And that's exactly what Salvia is, in the mint family. All right. Okay. I'm talking about low dose here. Again, whole leaf, a regular pipe bowl full, or anything from 1 to 3 leaves chewed in a quid. And that can be fresh leaves, frozen. They work well frozen, even though some literature says it doesn't. Or dried, you just rehydrate them in your mouth, no big deal. Okay, on my second Brighton Bush adventure, we chewed 6 leaves. Everybody, collectively, all at the same time. And that was astonishing. But what I learned in that is that you have to have the Technicolor Carnival ride before you get to the coming out introspection period, when then you get to do your divination, you're asking questions, you're getting answers, you're having conversations with the plant. Okay. And that's about an hour and a half trip. The smoking is like about 10 minutes. So, depending on your schedule and your intention, that can make a big difference. Okay, I initially, in practicing, preferred the smoke. with all those usually effects, visually and physiologically, I was feeling energy planes, rods, cords, and balls moving through me. Does this resonate with people with Salvia experience? There's also the idea that there are other dimensions. There are three-dimensional dimensions, but they're not in this one. They're on the other side of a membrane. Close your eyes. Ooh, I'm in that one. Open my eyes. I'm in this one. Again, this is a low dose. Higher doses, you're just there and gone. Other geographies, the rotation, the twisting, the oscillating sprinkler thing, that happens a lot. And, of course, visual kaleidoscopic effects, cartoons, and clowns. DMT has machine elves. Salvia has clowns. And they're interesting. They're the fat, round, puffy clowns, like the style of or cartoons like the styles of the 40s and 50s. There's a lot of reference in Salvia material about going back to the 50s. And 40s. I don't know why, but it's interesting. This is with... here. Skipped some. This is important. So that's all the stuff that's going on around me. But what else is happening physiologically is there's a very strong genital arousal component in this level of dosing. And it's an impelling drive towards orgasm, ejaculation. And you're doing this in the context of a very much increased sensory nerve responsiveness and a dropping of social inhibitions. So this is not a party drug. And this is fine when you're solo, but wait, there's more. Okay, so that's all fine. So there was a lot of experience of doing solo work and having this impulsion and realizing that they were all overlapping, and so I ended up with the nickname for the cartoons as they were the cum clowns. And that's what that was. However, quit chewing 1 to 3 leaves, somewhere in there. You don't get to swallow for 30 minutes. So if you're doing this with a partner, it's hilarious, and it's coming on, and you can't talk to each other, so you're pantomiming. And it's hilarious. That's about an hour and a half experience with a slower onset and a slower wind down. Now you have a stronger dissolving of boundaries, increased neuromuscular sensation and sensitivity, merging. You tend to want to merge with the other person and or with your surroundings, and you're drawn closer and into that involvement. You're more fully engaged with whatever the recipient of your erotic attention is. Okay, so if you're with another person, you're being drawn into connection with that other person. If you happen to be observing moving images, you're drawn closer into that, and the vision and visual stuff will pull you in. You can find yourself erotically drawn into closer encounter with natural settings out of doors, which is interesting. Also, there's all the self-referential part. So there's the internal part and your own preoccupation with your own erogenous zones, which is better than nothing. Anyway, so this is all very interesting because much of the writings about Salvia says it has to be done in the dark and silence, and that to get acclimated to the situation and get acquainted with the spirit teacher, yes. But once you know how to work with her, dance with her, she will or may allow you to do this in bright light and colorful circumstances, which is pretty fun. So, so along with this sensory erotic focalizer and facilitator, so Salvia is a driver, an erotic impeller, again pushing towards climax with heightened sensitivities and sensuality. Also for older folks, guys particularly, it may provide a shorter refractory period between rounds of activity, which isn't a bad thing either. Up front, I didn't actually first experience Salvia until I was in my 50s. So this is all as an older person. So if you're a younger person, you don't have to worry about that, then don't worry about that. The thing that's also true about Salvia, while she's heavily engaged in exploring the physical world through your senses, she's not overly concerned with erection. Oh well. Doesn't mean diminished sensitivity, just whatever. Anyway, all of this results in that Salvia, dancing with Salvia, works really well for certain kinds of sex magic, or as a sacramental devotional offering, a sacrifice. Again, this is solo or with a partner. I'll get more into the partner stuff here in a minute. However, it's not very helpful for the kind of sex magic that's tantric, where you're working on a delayed or withheld male orgasm, right? And you want to diffuse that and disperse that, whereas the female tantrika is like, yeah, keep going. That's fine. But Salvia won't help you there. She's a driver. And she wants what she wants. And she wants you to want it more, harder, faster now. Yeah. Okay. So, what this process can lead to with a partner is what's called hieros gamos. And if you know that phrase, sacred marriage, okay. And that's a part of most nature worship and fertility rituals. The Wiccan Great Rite is that sacred marriage, hieros gamos. So that means it's a mating of two deities, or a deity and a mortal, or two mortals in a priestly or archetypal representation of the deity, divine possession. Of course, Salvia is part of this, making it a ménage à trois. That's a threesome. And she sometimes has her own agendas. But what can happen is that you are with a partner, and the archetypes come into manifestation in the partner, and you are experiencing this deiform, this God form that comes in and manifests and then flits away, and then another one comes in, and your partner is experiencing that same phenomenon within you. So you realize you are no longer just a couple of people, or however many people you are. Anyway, it's not just you guys, but you are participating in a much larger experience of a spiritual and energetic number of dimensions. So you're dancing with gods and goddesses, and you are representing them on Earth at that particular point. That's pretty much... Link to cosmic mythos. That's good. Oh, preparation, intention, all appropriate ritual protocols and safeguards in place. Everybody well informed, full consent, of course. And then you just get to be here and everywhere now. Any questions, comments, observations?
Is there like a shelf life in a way for the herb? Like, in the plant, does it degrade over time?
I haven't found that to be the case, but you want to protect it from contamination. Thanks, Tom. I can get that when I get done here. The nice thing about Salvia Divinorum is it's legal. This is a $25 ounce of dried salvia leaf from Herb Stomp, Herb Shop, right down here on Belmont and 39th. If you want to try a pinch of this, bring a little container tomorrow, and you can have a little sample. Do with it what you will. 39th and Belmont, or Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Herb Stomp is the shop, but it's not illegal, so you can have it, you can do it, you can share it with your friends and so on. Couple of more books, briefly. I mentioned those already, and that's it. One more question. Yes, Tom.
And this is an odd one, it's a history question. With regards to the sacred marriage and how there were different versions, like taking, which one do you think was the original?
Man, I'm not a prehistoric student, but you go into any kind of a shamanic context, and you are, or in a Wiccan or a ritual context, you go into aspect, you open up, you draw down the moon, you call in the deiform, and the deiform moves through you, and it's either something you're aware of or it's full possession, and then you're ridden by the, or, your Risha or whatever. So it goes back as far as we've thought there were others out there or felt there were and invited them in and said, hey, it's us. And there's a quick quote from a book called Trialogues at the Edge of the West, published in 92. That was Ralph Abraham, Terence McKenna, and Rupert Sheldrake. And they had a conversation about resacralization of the world, the revitalization of church religion, and the revisions of science. And Terence McKenna said, oh yeah, like a psychedelic green party? And Rupert Sheldrake says, yeah, the Pacific Northwest of America is one part of the world where there is an attempt to reintegrate green politics and psychedelic cults. Yeah, think? Anybody else? Yeah.
Zippers. Did you ever find all kinds of crazy, colorful zippers in the Salvia space?
I read about zippers, and I read about being bubblegum on the wheel of a pram, brick in a wallpaper. I've seen kaleidoscopic carnival, like Ferris wheel type stuff, and things moving in circles. I've felt planes of energy moving through me diagonally that don't fit any, rods and balls of energy moving through and moving through the membrane, and you're there, which is why you want a sitter if you're doing anything above a low dose, because you are going to want to wander in that other landscape, and it doesn't match this one, and you can hurt yourself. So.
In terms of the herb degrading, grows wild in my land in Hawaii, and it's important to dry it out of the sun. It's sensitive to sunlight, the Divinorum, but it's not sensitive to heat, so you can burn it. It's still there, but if it's in the sun, it will degrade.
Well, like any plant material, it can get mold, it can oxidize, whatever. I've used fresh leaves that have been frozen for a couple of years. Fine. Again, at the level that I'm doing, and I'm not trying to race through different galaxies, so I'm trying to be here better. And so it works that way for me. Anyway, anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard once on a podcast somebody say that salvia is legal because it's not as enjoyable as some of the other psychedelics. And I kind of felt like that was maybe an oversimplification, but could you maybe just speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
Maybe why, if it is unpleasant.
I don't know why it would. Well, not enough people have done terrible things in public with it to make it become illegal. But like hitting yourself, on the foot with a hammer isn't a pleasant experience unless you're into exploring the sensation of hitting your foot with a hammer very lightly, or maybe a small cat of nine tails on your. But anyway, so it all depends on the sensation. It's not a social thing, but it's great for intimate contact with another person or persons in that collective, however, So yeah, and most of the time I've been doing it by myself. But anyway, yeah.
So you mentioned 30 minutes holding the leaves in your mouth.
Oh yeah.
I heard 10 minutes. It's really, really bitter. You really hold it in your mouth for 30 minutes.
People pay money to drink Fernet. It's bitter. People drink Campari. It's bitter. It's not that bitter. The stuff that's out there now is all cloned, and it's fairly mild in taste. You get used to it just like you do gin martinis or beer or tobacco or whatever. But the hardest part is to not swallow for 30 minutes. It's easier if you're not being distracted, but if the other person is goofing around and you're wanting to laugh and snort it out your nose, it's a little awkward. But it's, again, somebody said it's the price you pay to play the game. And it's, again, I got about an hour and a half of stuff. But you occupy the space very differently. Kinesthetically, you're differently. It's a dissociative at higher doses. You go elsewhere. But at a low dose, you're just sort of blending with your surroundings. You're feeling the space around you as concrete, and you're connected to it. And all your nerve kinesthetic responses internally are very different than when you're just, now. So it's a very interesting experience. Again, low light or no light and no sound, you get to explore the nuances more, especially if you're new at it. But later on, it's like, oh, hey, we're going to go for a drive, not in a car. And you can do it in daylight. However, I got to say, a majestic equinox meadow with deer grazing and the equinox moon rising over the hillside can be a very erotic scenario. Anyway, anything else? That's good.